the riders are watching for the lights as we prepare to go racing. Race number 2 of the Asia Talent Cup here in Thailand, and a really slow start from Matsuyama. And the riders off P1 and 3 are going to get away first, and Boisry's made a flying start. Putra is away with him. The top 2 having made a slight break. They should be caught back up down the next 2 straights, but immediately it's a slipstream battle up front as the number 16 Adinanta Putra tries to get on terms with Tachikorn Boisry, the early race leader, our pole sitter of course. He might be about to lose that position though as they come down into turn number 3, cascading through. Putra up the inside to hit the front.
Nishimura also trying to get down the inside. He actually lost a spot off the grid, so keep an eye out for the championship leader, the man that won both of the opening races of the year in that number 3 machine. He's up into 4th position now.
Putra and Boisry then going side by side as they come in towards turn number 4. It's Boisry for the moment who has the advantage. As Steve said, losing a position early on in this lap. Sho Nishimura is now in P6. He had actually fought his way back into 4th, but then got mugged once again. So it's Munandar who is holding on at the moment in P4. And Nishimura, no doubt about it, with his work cut out, but he was sensible yesterday. He didn't get into fights while they were all closed up together on the opening lap. He bid his time, and then he came through gradually as the race went on. Matsuyama attempting to make a move for second, but as I was saying, the group at the front at the moment, it's about breaking away as a group and then fighting in and amongst themselves.
Yeah, because you can see behind them just how easy it is to get caught up in battles. We saw just coming through turn 4, Erbe on the number 17 machine. He actually ran all the way through the runoff on the exit of that corner. So lots of riders just making those mistakes in these early laps. That's why you see 2 riders at the back of the field already. But you can see at the front of the field, Matsuyama trying to get down the inside into turn 12. 16 lap race here, so it's a long race for all these riders, but you want to make sure that you're always able to be at the front of this group and those leading 3 or 4 bikes.
Matsuyama then has already picked off Putra, now thinks about a move on Boisry. Erbe, who Steve was just mentioning, back in the lineup here today, was declared unfit yesterday, so great to see, as I said previously, a full lineup here today. Matsuyama on the tail now of Boisry. Putra's going to have a go at double slipstreaming and try and pass the pair of them as they go through the left-hand kink that's named turn 2. They're almost 5 abreast, heading down into turn number 3. It's Matsuyama in the middle of your picture. It's Putra who has the inside of the racing line, and Putra is your new race leader. As we saw yesterday, all 6 of the riders from that leading group ended up holding the lead position at one stage or another, and it's no great surprise that we're in a similar situation here as the top 6 start to break away. Half a second now behind 6th place Nishimura.
Yeah, and in the Asia Talent Cup, it really is a case of once you're able to make into that lead group, it's very difficult to catch back to them unless they start fighting with each other. You can see Nishimura there just having a little bit of a twitch on the way into turn 4. He made a lot of moves into there in yesterday's race, turn 5. In yesterday's race for Nishimura, you can see him there with the green helmet on the number 3 machine. That's where he was strong yesterday to try and make some moves. The likes of Matsuyama on the number 11 was strong in this sector. That's why he's trying to get down the inside to take the lead. This is where he was good in yesterday's race. And overall, through the course of this weekend, we've seen that Boisry there on the number 5 machine, he's been strong pretty much everywhere around the lap, but he got outfoxed in yesterday's race, and now he's definitely going to have to dig in and try and make sure he's able to get a good result here, because he needs the podium after setting such pace all the way through this week.
We spoke yesterday about strategy being crucial, particularly on the final lap in the Asia Talent Cup. But I suppose my question is, what can Boisry learn in direct reference to what he did yesterday to put himself in the right position to challenge for the race win? Because there's no doubt about his single lap speed. He's shown that right the way through free practice and indeed qualification. But he got beaten up in the latter stages yesterday, so we won't want to suffer the same fate today.
Yeah, you need to use your experience. He's a podium man in this class in the past, and he's also raced in the CEV Moto 2 class, so has plenty of experience in Europe as well. So really, you need to use that experience to understand where you have to be at the end of the race. You can see he just hits the front now on that number 5 machine, but runs in a little bit too deep into turn 3, leaves the door open once again for the 16 of Putra to come through.
Adinanta Putra then is your race leader. New fastest lap of the race you saw further back down the order. So all of the riders are scrapping for time, for position as well. And at the moment, that lead group hasn't really been able to break away to too dramatic an effect. There's about a half a second gap now behind Igarashi, who rounds out the top 10. And as I said, behind that, things starting to fall away. But up at the front, you can see that they're still in a freight train at the moment, Steve.
Yeah, you can see again another mistake in the middle pack there. We saw the number 12 machine just running through. That's Rollstone, the Australian, just running through the exit of turn 4 again, just showing how hard you have to press in that midfield just to try and stay with the pack.
There he is. He's been dropped down to 15th position, just ahead of Luke Power in P16. And in fact, I think Power has now managed to get through. They're still side by side fighting as they make their way through turns 9 and 10. Off turn 11 now and down another straight to tuck in for the slipstream and search for every avenue. Looking to the inside there briefly was Thong Napakan, the number 6, who throughout race number 1 was buzzing there or thereabouts, but could never quite break into a position where he was consolidating a podium place. At the moment, 1 second cover the top 6. Thong Napakan down in 7th place and a fall out at the back. So 2 riders slipping away, and well, there they are, just getting themselves up to their feet. So that's Samuel Voigt, who started P16 on the grid, and the number 7, Kasuma, have come down at the final turn, turn number 12. We only really caught the ending of that one, but it looks like we're about to get a replay here.
So we'll just see them come down in towards turn 12, keep an eye on the back of the group, and we'll wait and see what happens here.
It's the typical risk of a big pack all going together, Steve.
Yeah, just the usual turn 12 instant there. You can see 2 riders just basically looking for the same part of the track, and they'll both certainly feel that there was a move to be made if you're going down the inside, and if you're on the outside you're thinking they can just carry too much speed down into that. But pretty typical racing incident there in the Asia Talent Cup. You can see at the front the lead group really has managed to stay as a pack so far. That's 12 bikes in that leading group.
So that collision further back has certainly shaken up the lower ranked riders and dropped them away from contention. A 2-second gap now between Asman in 12th and Power in P13. So as Steve said quite rightly, we're into a 12-rider group situation now. It's Putra who leads for the moment. Munandar making a dart up the inside of Matsuyama to take 2nd position away. Nishimura down in 8th place at the moment, so he's a man to watch in the context of the championship, of course. But it's very easy if you get passed by one to then get passed by an entire group. So this might be the perfect example as we come down and see if you get stuck on the outside line, you can easily get freight trained by 2 or 3 riders coming past it.
Yeah, we saw that at the end of yesterday's race in particular, just how easy it is just to get yourself caught out just by losing 1 spot, and as you said, Alex, just then losing 3 or 4 spots. So if you're at the back of this freight train, you really need to make sure that you're making your progress through it, because if these leading riders start to break away, you need to be in a position to be able to go with
1.5 seconds at the moment, covering the top 12 as Matsuyama steals himself for an attack on Putra and comes past for the race lead. Boisri is getting an advantage from the slipstream on 2 and now cuts across the front of Matsuyama before swinging away to the inside line. So Boisri once again showing that he's the man to beat. Can he do it on race day here in race number 2? Look at them all tucked together in a line, all benefiting from the slipstream from the rider in front. Boisri and Putra. Looks like Putra might have the advantage for the moment at least. Matsuyama is with them as well. But for now at least, it's difficult to predict too much how this race might pan out. It's a 16-lap race, remember. Still a long way to go as Matsuyama makes a move from way back. And that's what we've been talking about, Steve. There is an opportunity on these little Asia Talent Cup machines to make a big old dive down into turn number 5 from way back. Is what we've seen plenty of from Nishimura. Yeah,
just as long as they hold that tight line, they're able to make the move. You can see there with the number 11 though of Matsuyama once again through those sections of the lap. He's able to carry that speed through turn 7 and 8, set up his move nice and early to then get himself through to the front. Putra has done a good job. We saw it yesterday as well. When he dropped back into the middle of the pack, he was still able to find his feet and managed to get his way up to the front of the group again. If you think back to yesterday's race, he had a big moment here and he was still able to immediately get himself reset and get himself ready to fight once again. So keep an eye on Putra on that number 16 machine. He's certainly got resiliency and he's certainly got good speed here in Buriram.
Looking racy there. He thought about a move down the inside of Matsuyama and instead swung out wide for the cutback to build himself up on this start-finish straight. He's not going to be able to do much about Matsuyama for the moment at least. Big move from Igarashi, who was our race 1 faller of course, and he tries to get some revenge here. An inside move, he takes 6th position, but jostling constantly. Munandar, don't forget, our race 1 winner, is still up there in 4th position. Thong Napakan had a good lap last time around to move into 3rd place. He's now thinking about a move for a potential race leading position, but he can't quite get there, and instead from 4th to 1st goes Munandar from way back. Our race 1 winner showing once again how it's done.
these riders at the front, they want to make sure that they're able to start to break away from the rest of the pack. You want to splinter this group now, so fighting with each other down into the hairpins, you're not going to do that. You're actually going to cost yourself by the time. They need to make sure that they work together just to try and break away from the rest of this field. You can see a little bit of a gap develops at times through the lap, but then once you're back in the slipstream, it just comes right back to you. So you need to make sure that you're able to set your own pace and try and just break away. If you're in those leading couple of positions, try and work with the riders around you.
Group here all going together. We saw it on the evidence of the Australian going down further back in the pack, but it really does prove that if you're too close together later on in the race, there's bound to be some kind of drama. We're talking about 12 riders covered by less than 2 seconds, often going 3, 4, even 5 abreast we've seen at times into the turns, and when you're making moves from 4th to 1st, you're really at the mercy of the other riders being compliant to those moves.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we saw with the crash with Voigt and Kasumo. Once you're in that pack, it's very easy just to trip over someone and get yourself caught out. You can see down into turn 12 that Nishimura's trying to catch his way down the inside, makes that move nice and clean as well on Igarashi. So Nishimura picks up another spot. He's up into 6th position now.
Sho Nishimura then, our championship leader, still within a second of the race lead, and a whole clutch of riders still in contention at the moment. This is what we're really used to seeing in the Asia Talent Cup, an even larger group than we saw yesterday. This is a characteristic of this series. Nishimura up in 6th position, and we're going to see potentially a bit of his style here.
Yeah, you can see Nishimura just coming through the faster section in the middle of the lap. This is down through that section of 6, 7, 8, 9, and all these corners just flow into one another, and this is really where you're able to carry that speed. That's through the end of the lap, through 10 and 11, so setting up the moves down into turn 12. We've seen him make the move into turn 12 a couple of times just from carrying that speed through that section.
Putra and Boisri still very much the riders to beat. It's Boisri who leads for the moment. Matsuyama down the inside takes 3rd position away from Munandar. Meanwhile, darting to the inside, Igarashi tries to recover, and he's gained back 1 position at the expense of Napakan. Nishimura ended up getting mugged down the back straight last time around, and he's now been relegated to 8th position. He's fighting with Asvan, that's got back in front of him now, as they almost come 3 abreast once again. As things stand in the championship, Nishimura would still have an advantage, but it would be narrowed because Matsuyama is up in 3rd position and Nishimura at the moment only in P7. But we saw this for much of race number 1, where Nishimura wasn't too bothered about being in the middle of that group, and in the final laps, that's when he started putting in his moves. It's almost like a marathon race here. You stay with the lead group, and then when it's time to really kick, that's when Nishimura knows exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he did in yesterday's race. Just picked off everyone as they came to him and just waited for that race to come towards him. Of course, for Nishimura, still able to finish 2nd in yesterday's race, didn't quite manage to win that race after what he'll feel was a bit of a mistake on the last lap with his tactics.
Big move down the inside to pass 2 from Igarashi, goes from 5th to 3rd. That's Munandar and Matsuyama who are his victims. See how long he can hold on to that position for. Putra with the fastest lap of the race last time around on the number 16 machine, about to be passed by Boisri here in the slipstream, and the other riders all jostling to try and get a look in as well. And from way back, Munandar is going to make a big old move, and Boisri has hung it out really wide, and the riders who followed Boisri in ended up getting overtaken by Munandar. A couple of riders running a little bit wider than the track allows them to, but all have made it safely through, just trying to extend the track as much as anything as they fight for position and often go side by side.
Yeah, exactly. You can see here down into turn 4, just doing the exact same thing again. Nishimura just managing to hang around the outside. But we saw there a new fastest lap from Putra. It's actually around about 3/4 of a second slower than what we saw in yesterday's race, which shows you that once you're in this big pack, it's a lot harder to try and set those lap times. You're trying to react to the people around you and you're battling with them. So in yesterday's race, we had 6 or 7 riders in front of the field. Today we've got 12, and it's just brought that pace to be a lot slower.
It certainly seems that the rider who is at the front of the group can't pick their own racing line whatsoever, because every time they go in for a turn, they're at risk of someone diving up the inside of them from way back.
Yeah, exactly. Once you're at the front of a group like this and you're able to give off that slipstream, it's very easy just to be attacked, particularly down into places like turn 12, turn 3, down into 4 and into turn 5 as well. So you can't pick the points where you want to brake, you can't pick the points where you want to turn in. You can see here everyone trying to turn in on the same point. But once again, Nishimura just managing to hold his station and hold his place. He's doing a good job of just being very tactically aware of where he needs to be out there.
Asman was very smart there through turn number 12 because riders were turning across the front of him and he didn't try and put himself on the racing line on the apex. He simply waited for them to cut in and then slotted in behind them, which at this stage of the race is still the sensible thing to do. 8 long laps to go for these riders. It's Matsuyama who leads from Munandar. It's Putre in third position, about to get swamped. Boisry and Nishimura are going to go around the outside of him into turn number 3. Holding it up on the racing line is Putre though. He retains that third position. A reminder of the championship favourites. Nishimura at the moment in P5. Matsuyama is challenging very much among the top 3 places at the moment. In fact, he's going elbow to elbow with Putre here, and our race leader Munandar directly ahead of them.
And yesterday's race winner, Munandar, as well, he's been able to get himself to the front pretty much when he wants during the course of this race. You can see Putre on the 16 trying to also get himself through into second spot. He actually left the door open and left himself under attack through there as well. But you can see here through this section with the number 11 of Matsuyama, this is where he's going to try and set up his moves to try and get it through under braking down in towards here at turn 8, turn 9.
Local favourites are Boisry, who sits in second position, and Thong Napakan, who sits at the moment in P8. In and amongst them, 2 Japanese riders, a couple of Indonesians as well. We've got a panoply of different nationalities all competing towards the front here. But it's Munandar at the moment, the race 1 winner, who is looking to make it 2 out of 2. And as we saw back-to-back winners in Qatar, it would be a surprise to see back-to-back winners once again here in Thailand. 2 riders up the inside of him though. This time around, it's Putre and Boisry fighting it out in front with Matsuyama going with them. And we really now have a clear lead group, and the riders who aren't in amongst these top 12 are certainly out of contention. 10 seconds back now from the lead 12.
Yeah, no coincidence that we saw a couple of red flashes there to say new fastest laps from those leading riders. But it was actually Warren on the number 6 machine that was making up some space as well. So he's actually set the new fastest lap of the race, doing what he can to try and stay with this group, just like what we saw from him in yesterday's race as well.
One thing the riders don't want is to end up in a secondary group if this one does splinter into 2. At the moment, it's a dozen riders going together. It only takes a little incident to drop you further back and out of the reach of the slipstream, and that's when you would really be in trouble trying to make back lost ground. As Steve said, Thong Napakan with a good lap last time around, but this entire group only really separated by half a second. A lap and down, we've got a faller, and it's exactly the situation that we called, and it's Asman who's gone down on the number 13 machine. We said it earlier on, Steve, when the riders are in such a close group all together, it only takes a rider to turn across the front of you, you're straight up the back of them, and that's what happened to Asman there.
Yeah, you said earlier on that he was pretty smart in being able to avoid some trouble. Unfortunately there for Asman, he just runs into the back of the rider in front of him. It looked like it could have been the number 4 machine of Munandar. Munandar lost a couple of spots in that as well, but for Asman out of the race and really into turn 4, it's a tough place to make the overtake move. You can make it, but you have to be alongside on the way into the corner.
I'm not taking the blame for that, Asman, the curse of the commentator, having said how smart he was when he was riding the inside line previously. That was a little bit careless as he thundered down the inside and rode straight up the back of the rider in front of him. So now we're down to an 11 rider group. 1 down, 11 still to go, out in front. It's a 16-lap race, we said previously, so we now have 6 laps remaining, and more than halfway through, it's still impossible to call which way this one's going to go. 2 seconds covering the top 11.
Yeah, and this is what's great about the Asian Talent Cup races. They might be 16 laps, but the first 3 quarters of the race really is a case of just trying to find your footing, try and make sure that the group sort of splits up a little bit, try and understand who you're going to be racing with. Then the final quarter of the race, the final 4 or 5 laps here in Buriram, this is when it all starts to get settled. This is when it all starts to really heat up. This is when we start to see riders start, just like what we saw there with Asman, just start to press a little bit harder.
And pressing a little bit harder at the moment is Nishimura. We said that in yesterday's race he left it until more than halfway through and then started to kick on and really take the fight to the top 3 positions. Well, Nishimura is up into P4 rather. He's jostling at the moment with Putre over 3rd position. He's going to get hung up to dry on the outside line here as Munandar comes through, but manages to go all the way around the outside. So holding on here in a fight at the moment with Munandar, positions 3, 4 and 5. Nishimura, Munandar and Putre Matsuyama and Boisry have broken away ever so slightly while those three were scrapping among themselves, and Boisry is now going to become our new race leader on the inside of Matsuyama.
Yeah, this is a bit silly. You need to work together once you've got that little bit of a gap, because immediately Nishimura right there with him. Now, obviously enough with the slipstream, you would expect that group to have caught up anyway, but once there's half a gap, you really do need to work together, not cost each other time, like what we saw there from Boisry and Matsuyama.
So it's strategic racing here in the Asia Talent Cup, a squirmy moment for two of the riders further back. That was Mahadi and Patumios, who were both going down the inside with a little bit more ambition than their experience was permitting, and for a moment there I thought the two of them were going to come together. They both managed to gather it up and save it, but they're towards the back of this group for the moment, and you can see that they're eager to try and take advantage of their status within the group to move into the top few positions, because if you're at the back of that 12-rider train coming into the final 2 laps, unlikely you're going to make it onto the podium.
Yeah, you really do need to make sure that in this leading group you're getting yourself up into those top half dozen spots once again. You can see down towards turn 3, lots of riders just trying to make their moves into there, but Putra able to stay out in front.
As we see the group in one shot all together, in less than 1.5 seconds altogether. It's Matsuyama who's going to have a go at Putra here. Particular credit to Igarashi, who is still in that group, who remember had that frightful crash yesterday, who's come from 12th position on the grid, and he's up in 9th at the moment. And all positions are up for grabs at the moment as you see them swarm around going into turn number 5 once again. It's Munandar who is trying to make the break, but it's Nishimura who's now up into 2nd position and 2 places clear of his championship rival Matsuyama. So he said Nishimura knows exactly when to start kicking on and has an opportunity to extend his series lead.
Yeah, you can see down into turn 4, all those riders just jostling with one another. We actually saw Munandar go from round about 5th position up into the lead, and then Nishimura just trying to follow him through as well. You can see down in towards the turn 5, the left-hander here, Nishimura is just going to try and get down the inside. Actually just clipped the curb on the way, and that's why he had to sit that bike up a little bit, force another rider to run out a little bit wide. But all's fair in love and war, and it's certainly war here in the final quarter of the Asia Talent Cup race for all these riders. They've come through turn 12 to start another lap.
That was Ferdaus who had to make a bit of avoiding action, the 2 riders with the 2 green helmets, and Ferdaus with another good ride here actually, after being forced to work hard to rejoin the lead group first time out. He's very much within the top 6 positions as things stand. It's Munandar with Nishimura trying to make his sprint through, with Matsuyama directly behind him trying to get the slipstream. Big old group all together as they come down towards turn number 3. It's Boisry who leads it at the moment, our pole sitter, but there have been any impossible to imagine number of position changes. I was going to say umpteen, and I think that's the perfect number, but it's certainly not a number in the teens. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, certainly in this leading group we've seen pretty much every straight, we've seen a couple of changes, every corner we've seen the opportunities to try and make a move. You can see Nishimura on lap number 3 trying to make the move down in towards turn 4. Good move from Nishimura, makes it nice and clean on the way into 4. Down into 5, is he going to try and get down the inside? This is where he's really strong. Not quite strong enough to make the move for the race lead though.
At the moment, Nishimura doesn't really need to make that move on Boisry. He can sit behind him, say thank you very much for the slipstream, and just wait until the final lap to really launch an attack. We've heard riders in other categories talking about setting themselves up for moves into that turn number 12 on the final lap when there's no opportunity to make a recovery pass. And we know that any of the top 6 could win this race as long as they're there or thereabouts and in the right position on the track coming into and out of turn 12.
Yeah, now that we're into the final 3.5 laps, this really is the case of trying to make sure you're in those leading 5-6 positions right now, so that you're able to use the final 3 laps to make sure you can get to the front of the group when you need to get to the front of the group. You can see there number 16, Putra, just trying to get down the inside into turn 12, wasn't quite close enough.
Putra attempting to pass Munandar, but has to back out of it at the last moment. Matsuyama is directly in behind them. Munandar, in turn, thinking about a move on Nishimura. The top 5 trying to break away ever so slightly from Ferdaus behind, but as soon as they come onto another straight, the slipstream sucks them all back in together, and there's still just over 1.5 seconds. Mutakim with a problem there, I think, on the straight, coming down towards turn number 2. The left-hand kink before the right-hander, so he drops well back. Mutakim from the tail of this group with his hand raised at one point. Whether that was a mechanical, either way, the large bulk of this group is still together.
Yeah, so we're down to 10 riders in that lead group, and you can see how important it is for all these riders now. They all understand exactly what happens in the final 2.5, 3 laps of an Asian Talent Cup race. It's a free-for-all from this point onwards, and it really is a case of make the moves when they present themselves to you.
Matsuyama is now our race leader. Sho Nishimura, the championship leader, ducking down the inside line of Verdaus, and he's come down! Our championship leader is down! Nishimura went for an inside move on one of the turns that he's absolutely mastered on this circuit, and his rival Verdaus was not expecting a move there. Cut across the front of him, down goes Nishimura. Verdaus was fortunate not to be collected and to go down as well, but this is a really big situation in the context of the series for Nishimura. Here we see it again, Steve.
He tries to get down the inside, just loses the front all on his own. He can complain all he wants, but taking that tight line, it's really not a case of with Putra on the outside, where Putra's trying to take over part of the asphalt from him. That looked like Nishimura just tries to get down the inside, makes a mistake, and he's down and out. The winner of both races in Qatar, second in yesterday's race, the championship leader coming into today, and suddenly it opens up the opportunities for all the rest of these riders. 2 laps to go now. You can see at the front of the field, yesterday's race winner, the number 4 there of Bonandar. He's been overtaken now by Matsuyama. Matsuyama, of course, finished second in both of the first races of the year.
And another big crash out at the back there, and 2 more riders going down. So I was slightly flippant earlier on when I said 12 riders and only 11 to go, but we've had 4 riders fall just in the last 2 laps, and this group has now become a 6-rider battle, and the red flag has come out. So 2 incidents within 2 laps there, and the red flag is going to bring a halt to this session. There it is confirmed on your screen. This one will come to a stoppage, and we've completed the vast majority of this race, Steve.
Yeah, it was Verdaus down at turn 1 on the number 10 machine, and that looks like it's brought out the red flag. But for all these riders now, it really is. It's disappointing for them in the Asia Talent Cup when something like this happens, because the race is all set up for the final lap. It's trying to understand and develop that sense of what you need to do in the final laps for these riders. They'll be disappointed with the red flag. Hopefully, nothing too much to worry about for Verdaus, because he raced really well in yesterday's race. He was able to stay in this leading group all the way through this race as well.
Well, I think that's a bit of celebration from Boisry, isn't it? He's understood that this race is going to be declared and that he was out in front at the time of the red flag. Nishimura will suffer defeat, but he won't be too disappointed about that, because it's going to give him a whopping championship lead. And from a position where he'd been beaten 3 times in a row, 1 non-score can rob you of a large chunk of points, and that's what's happened to Nishimura here today. So we're waiting for confirmation as to the official result here having been declared. That's certainly what we'd expect to be the case. It's Boisry who was leading, if I'm not mistaken, at the time of the stoppage, ahead of Nishimura and Munandar.
Yeah, and in the Asia Talent Cup race, it might be different red flag rules to the newly introduced red flag rules in World SBK. So for these riders, it'll be the last completed lap by all of the field. That's why Nishimura is still up in second spot. Nishimura crashed, but he did get back onto his bike. He did rejoin, so he is in the pack, and he will be coming back down in towards Park Ferme. Here you can see with Buarsi that he understands that he's won this race, and good job from the number 5. He's been pretty much the dominant rider all the way through the course of practice here in Buriram, and he'll be able to walk away with 25 points. But Nishimura, he's going to feel like a very lucky man to walk away with 20 points and continuing to extend that championship lead. If you think back to Matsuyama, he's down in 5th spot now, whereas he had actually just taken the lead when the red flag came out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. I was a little bit hasty in calling that. The positions as they stood at the time of the stoppage. We'd lost Nishimura, of course, but at the end of the previously completed lap, he was still up and running. So if that does indeed end up being confirmed as the result, that is an extremely lucky escape from Nishimura. But I must say as well, it would be an extremely well-merited race victory for Boisry, because he has been the man to beat in single lap pace. I think he was something like half a second faster than anyone else through practice, and for him to get his just rewards and a race victory, I'm sure he'll be absolutely delighted about that. The Thai rider will get a great reception here.
Yeah, absolutely. He has ridden really well all the way through this weekend, and was a podium man here last year in Buriram, and now he's able to add a win to that as well. So really good performance there from the number 5 rider to be able to claim that win. As we said, hopefully the red flag here isn't for too serious an incident for Ferdows. Maybe we did see quite a lot of the bodywork had been taken off the bike, so maybe some fluid had gone down on the track as well.
Yep, and we did see 3 big incidents during the course of that race. We had 3 crashes yesterday in race 1 as well, but I think in race 2 it was even more inevitable. We had 12 riders rather covered by 1.5 seconds, so I think it was pretty much inevitable that there were going to be some coming togethers at some point during that race.
Yeah, for all these riders, it's trying to keep a cool head in the closing stages. And it's a lot easier to keep a cool head whenever you know who you're fighting with. But in a field that's got a 12-rider pack at the front and there's only a limited number of riders, I think there was only 20 riders taking the start, 19 riders taking the start. So you've pretty much got 2/3 of the field with 2 laps to go, or at least 11 riders in that leading group at that stage. You've got half the field all fighting it at the front. It's very difficult for the riders to keep a cool head in those kind of circumstances.
And the other thing we mustn't forget, of course, is that we're talking about riders as young as 12 years of age. So the more mature riders, the 18, 19-year-olds, of course, they've been in these situations before, or at very least, you know, they're mentally more mature. But we're talking about 12-year-old riders who just want to go out there and pass someone on every turn.
Yeah, and that's the thing for this Asia Talent Cup Championship. As you said, you got some riders that are 12, some riders that are as old as 19, and they'll also know that after this race here in Buriram, they've got a few months off. It's not until the middle of July that they're back in action in Sepang, and then it's not until October when they join up with the Asian swing of MotoGP that they're back in action. You can see here, this will be the crash for Nishimura down the inside. It looks like there's contact there, but from the reverse angle, didn't see any contact there, but Nishimura was able to get himself back up and get himself back into the race, and that's why he was able to claim 20 points for finishing in second. You can see just as the red flag comes out, this is where we've got the number 11 there of Matsuyama. He managed to get himself to the front, but you can see there a huge crash in the background. Both of the riders, actually, one rider just running over the top of another. It looked like it was Ferdows and Mahadi, so big crash there for both of those riders, and very understandable to take out the red flag after an incident like that. So hopefully both those riders are okay.
Absolutely, it was frightful. That third house was sent catapulting over in towards the gravel track. We saw a very high-speed incident in World Superbikes here yesterday for Eugene Laverty in a similar area of the circuit, although he was in the gravel even earlier. So a frightful place to end up having an incident because it's really high speed there going into turn 12.
Yeah, down into turn 12, it's fast. Down into turn 1 as well. When the riders come all the way back through the gears, it's easy just to get yourself caught out within that pack. And luckily, we've been able to at least have the majority of the field get through unscathed. But those 2 riders, with a bit of luck, they'll both be given the all clear for that. But for the likes of Buarsi, as you said, to be able to claim this victory really does set him up nicely now for the rest of this championship. He moves himself up into 3rd in the championship standings, but it's the confidence you get from a win like this, particularly after Qatar, where he had a good weekend in Qatar, but definitely nothing like what we saw from him here in Buriram.
So we are seeing now on our timing screens confirmed as final results the fact that Boisri has taken the checkered flag ahead of Nishimura and Munandar, a figurative checkered flag, of course, and there we see it on your screen. Boisri ahead of Nishimura and Munandar. These are the positions as they were at the end of the last completed lap. So Putra just misses out on a place on the podium. Matsuyama is the biggest loser from that result declaration because he was challenging for the lead at the time of the stoppage and ends up going back down to 5th position. Thong Napakan, who set the fastest lap of the race, takes P6. Igarashi, a good recovery from a race 1 fall. Patsumios Mutakim, and Luke Power ends up taking 10th place. He was out of that lead group battle, and we saw a fraction of him earlier on in the race when Ralston ended up dropping into his path. But Luke Power getting the best of the rest award, if you like, almost 20 seconds back from the lead group, but taking 10th position. In the end, only 14 finishers declared for that race. So a real race of attrition in the Asia Talent Cup Race 2 here in Thailand.
Yeah, and it's a strange one to see finish like that, considering we had such a clean battle at the front for the majority of the race with a big pack of 12. But once you get into those final stages of the race, everyone wants to make sure they're able to get through to the front, and sometimes accidents are a little bit inevitable. But as you can see, for the 3 podium riders, particularly there for Nishimura, you can see on the right-hand side of the shot, holding the green helmet, he'll certainly feel like he got out of jail with this one.
I think he'll probably feel that a podium is almost a cheeky podium here, because he wasn't in position to be able to challenge for points at all, frankly. And he's ended up getting a get-out-of-jail-free card, I think we'd call it, played, and remains in the championship lead, and with a 23-point championship advantage as well now over Matsuyama. So not only does he end up not losing the championship lead, because he would have lost it outright if the race had reached its natural conclusion, but he actually extends that series lead overall. He's now beaten his direct rival in each of the races so far in 2019. But that's a great sight. We're going to see plenty of celebrations in the grandstands here, with a Thai rider up there and on the podium, and Tachakorn Boisri, our race winner, who is now confirmed as having taken the checkered flag here. So Tachakorn Boisri wins, representing Thailand. A delight for the home crowd. 3 different riders of 3 different nationalities on the podium once again here in race number 2. This time it's Sho Nishimura who gets 2nd place, and his championship rival Takuma Matsuyama down in 5th position. Fritz Munandar, the race 1 winner, another podium for him as he takes P3. Adananta Putra is between them in 4th. Thong Napakan with that fastest lap of the race finishing in 6th. Igarashi, as I said previously, good recovery from day 1 disaster for him. Luke Power gets P10, best of the rest, and gets that verdict in the fight with Jacob Rulstone, who recovers to 11th. Ryosuke Bando, after his race 1 dramas, comes home in 12th position and puts some points on the board, as does Kadir Urbe, who of course missed race 1, having been declared unfit, but comes back out onto the track and ends up scoring a couple of points for his travails this weekend. Sho Nishimura is our championship leader, and by a significant 23-point margin. Tachakorn Boisri's race victory moves him up from 6th place in the standings to 3rd. Putra, Munandar and Thong Napakan all dropping back. This is the list of riders who've scored points in the Asia Talent Cup through 2019. Plenty of running still to go this season, and even the riders further down the order will be hoping that in a couple of months' break they can gradually reel in the lead runners with experience on their own local tracks and continue on their road to MotoGP. Well, Steve, it's been entertaining, this Asia Talent Cup. It's only once this season that it'll be part of the World Superbike schedule, and it has given us a little extra to think about this weekend, a little extra treat.
Yeah, apparently the road to MotoGP comes on the back of a golf cart. But for all these riders, it really is the chance just to race in front of a big crowd, race in front of the big names of the sport. That's the great thing about the Asia Talent Cup. It does support the Asian swing of World SBK and also MotoGP. So you do get that opportunity to race in front of the big names of the sport. You can see for the race winner there, another home victory for Thailand here in Buriram. Somkhet Chantra was the most recent rider to have done that. He did the double a few years ago, and this is the 4th home victory in Buriram for a Thai rider.
So success for a Thai representative, and that always raises a cheer from the grandstand once the national anthems and so on. And our race winner here, Tachakorn Boisri of Thailand, riding that number 5 machine, and just 18 years of age, and this is his 2nd year in the Asia Talent Cup. So starting to build up in experience and confidence now, and confidence is a great deal of it as well, particularly when you're in a big pack like that, to know when to make your moves and to seize opportunities at the right moment rather than ending up in crashes. Because although we've talked about the incidents, what we haven't done is add value to the riders who didn't manage to get involved in any of those scraps.
Yeah, and that's the big thing for any of these riders. Sometimes the best shots are the ones you don't take, and particularly in something like the Asia Talent Cup race, sometimes keeping the powder dry can actually pay off quite a bit more than just trying to be a little bit too aggressive. But for all these riders, it's about learning. It's about using this as a bit of an experience to make sure that you're able to join the rest of the riders we've seen from this championship over the years that have been brought through by the likes of Alberto Pucci. You also have Nakamoto-san, the former vice president of HRC. He's involved in the Talent Cup program as well. So there's big names out there to support these riders, and definitely they do put them right in front of the big shop windows.
And you heard in the background there the cheer that was raised by the grandstand when Tachakorn Boisri's name was read out. He gives a handshake to the 2 riders alongside of him on the podium, and now the trophies can be awarded and the celebrations can begin. I'm sure this will be a real moment of delight for Tachikaun Boisri. Still inexperienced, all of these riders, so a chance at success, and as you said earlier, Steve, on a big stage as well, quite literally at the moment, but a big stage in front of a large packed grandstand, all looking down and cheering on their local representative.
Yeah, not a bad birthday present as well for the race winner. He's got his birthday next week and able to celebrate with that victory, and you can see what it means for the support here that he has as well.
The Thai national anthem then, Tachikaun Boisri, your race winner here at the Chang International Circuit. A proud moment for him in front of his home crowd as he hears his national anthem. And now it's time for photos and celebration for the top three. And of course, the series rolls on. And we're looking forward to seeing how things work out, whether Boisri can now make a sustained effort for victory in the Asia Talent Cup. His Japanese rivals are still ahead of him in the point standings, and they again have had a strong effort this weekend.
Yeah, you're only as good as your last race, but whenever your next race is in 3 or 4 months' time, your last race is pretty damn good. And there for Boisri, he's able to celebrate that victory, and he's able to at least use this now, hopefully, to build himself up for the rest of the season whenever we resume in September.
The Asia Talent Cup now takes a near 4-month break then before resuming in Sepang, site of the season opening official test, where the riders will no doubt show how much they've improved in the intervening period as they continue on their road to MotoGP.